Hello, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Well, evening if you're on the East Coast, I suppose, where we are. Kevin and I are both on the East Coast here, but welcome, everybody. We're going to give a second here, let all the participants join in the webinar. We'll do some preliminary stuff, and then we'll jump right in and get going on tonight's webinar. Um, Before we get going, though, we always love to know, who's with us tonight. Where are you located? What state are you in? You want to drop that in the chat? Let us know where everyone is, and assume that these are parents of seniors, but maybe not. Maybe we got some parents of underclassmen. If you have underclassmen, let us know that too. But we're seeing most folks are in parents who. Okay. Oh yeah, Texas, Pittsburgh, Ohio. There we go, Ohio. Tennessee, California. All right, we got some Californias in there. Turkey. Did I see Turkey? That's pretty cool. All right, awesome. Looks like we got folks from all over. Oh, we got a little poll here. Let us
Drop
know.
the poll.
Yeah, what year is your student? We assume it's mostly 26s, but if you have some underclassmen, that's fine too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I think the seniors have it.
Long shot.
By a long shot. That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, good. Welcome everyone. Hopefully tonight will be insightful and helpful for you parents of seniors. You're probably starting to hear from colleges on admissions and hearing from colleges perhaps on merit scholarship offers, maybe even financial aid offers. It's possible. And so it's probably starting to get real. It's probably starting to feel real. Like, oh my gosh, we are here. And you may be like also having shock, sticker shock, maybe, hopefully not complete sticker shock if you've been using the MyCap platform. Hopefully you had a decent sense of, what kind of financial aid you were likely to get. And if you don't have a MyCap account, it's probably a good time to say it, you definitely should have one. You can get a free MyCap account. We'll put a link in the chat for everybody there to go out and create a free MyCap account if you haven't done so already. Super helpful. A lot of good stuff in there, not just projecting financial aid packages, but information on appeals and private scholarships and stuff we're going to be talking about in tonight's webinar. So again, if you haven't created a MyCap account yet, go ahead and jump out and do that as soon as you can. So why don't we do some quick introductions? Quick introductions so you know a little bit about us. I'll go first. My name is Jason Slone. I'm one of the college planning experts here at College Aid Pro. A little bit about my background. I actually been in higher ed for a very long time. I've been a college professor since 2002, which is kind of crazy to me. But yeah, I've been a college professor for a long time. Still teach college classes at Georgia Southern University. I live in Savannah, Georgia. I was a dean for 7 years, and so I always joke I'm the former dean that spills the beans on how financial aid works, so parents have a shot at getting the cost down. Um, I've been a financial advisor since 2008 as well, so I've had kind of a dual career and got into college planning because I have kids of my own, and so I've been in college planning now since really 2019-20. When my oldest kid, we have three kids, my wife and I. My oldest was starting to look at colleges, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Three kids." So I took a deep dive into this niche of college financial aid planning for selfish reasons to figure out how to pay less for college for my own kids. And I eventually became the planner of friends and family and that kind of stuff. And then it's like, oh, I should just do this. And so I've been with College Aid Pro now. This is going on my second year. So absolutely love it here and love working with my partner and friend and teammate here, Kevin Murphy. You're muted, by the way, Murph.
Thank you. We're not
Murph,
really,
come, yeah.
but yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. I would say this is uh, I would say one of our favorite times of the year. It admittedly is my favorite time of year for appeals, but I am one of the college financial aid experts here on the team as well. I got into this just very, very quick. I got into this back in it was 2018, and it was a financial advising company, and started there and didn't realize that so many families who need help with financial planning and advice on what to do with money also are sending their kids to college. So this was like naturally part of my job, and this was the part of the job that I loved the most. So I pivoted to just doing this, just working with families to really get as much as they can from colleges, and also to help them figure out how they're going to pay. But I'm down in New Jersey. I don't know why I said down, but I'm in New Jersey. Jason's down in Georgia. Um, So we are definitely on the East Coast. But yeah, I'll kick it back over to you.
Yeah. So, all right, very good. So why don't we go ahead and jump in here and get going? One thing we do want to say though is, we're going to give a high level overview tonight of appeals, private scholarships, and things like that in terms of how to pay less for college. But if you have specific questions, you can get your questions answered in one of two ways. One is you can drop questions in the Q&A, and whoever's not talking will try to jump in there and answer as many of those as we can tonight. But make sure they're in the Q&A. If you put your questions in the chat, we're probably not going to get to them. Just too confusing and hard to do. So keep them in the Q&A. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A. And then also, we're going to offer everybody a free 15-minute consultation to meet with us. If you schedule it tonight by midnight, it's a free 15-minute consultation. We'll put the scheduling link in the chat as well, because you might have some confidential stuff you don't want to drop in the Q&A. Understandably, this is financials. You don't want to put in there. But also, you may be looking to get some help with doing appeals. We do hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands. I don't, we'd have to add it up. Maybe thousands of appeals every year for parents, and it's something we're really good at. If you're thinking about maybe just hiring us to do that for you or working with you to help you, we'll be happy to chat with you. Jump on a 15-minute call, look at your situation, give you some honest feedback about, yeah, we think you do have a good chance for appeal, or we'll tell you if you don't, and if you do, and you're like, I don't know how to do this, I need some help, we can talk about ways we can help you, a couple of options that we have for our services. So if you have questions, again, drop them in the Q&A, or book a 15-minute free consultation with us to chat about your situation. Okay, having said all that, I'm going to try to share my screen here. How does that look, Murph?
Looks good to me. By the way, I'm
Okay.
also going to drop the link to book with us now, just in case anyone has to leave early. So I'll
Okay.
put it in the chat now.
All right. Okay. So, again, our mission here at College Aid Pro is we're trying to end the student debt crisis, one family at a time, really, by empowering families to shop smarter for college. And so that's part of what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is ways you can pay less for college by going through the appeals process and with private scholarships. So, again, just to reiterate, if you haven't set up a free MyCap account, make sure you do that. Take advantage of that. Super helpful. And Murph put the link in the chat for you there. So, all right, so let's jump right into this. So, we'll start off by talking about with the appeals process. So, this is kind of interesting part of the process. I talk to parents all the time. They're like, I didn't even know you could do this, let alone how to do it. So it's a really important part of the process. Um, and so hopefully tonight we're going to give you some clarity on how it all works, and so how you can take advantage of it. So we're going to talk about when do you appeal, how do you appeal, who should appeal, all those kind of good things. And it'll be very helpful. So the process is you've already applied for financial aid. Hopefully you filed the FAFSA with the CSS profile. You're starting to get your financial aid award offers. After you get those offers, that's when you're going to appeal. All right. Okay, so let's start off with when. In terms of the timeline, you've already submitted your application for admission. You submitted the FAFSA and the CSS profile. That's usually October, November. You're going to start getting admissions acceptances December, January, so you know where you got in. Then you're going to start getting typically merit aid notifications. If a school gives merit scholarships, they tend to a lot of them offer merit scholarship, give you merit scholarship offers first, and then you'll get financial aid offers from the financial aid office, need-based financial aid offers from the financial aid office after that. Usually February, March, even into April sometimes, depending on the school. And generally, then that's when you're going to want to do appeals, is after you've gotten your financial aid award offers. Okay, and that's sort of the general timeline there. So the first thing you want to do is you want to understand your offer. Okay, so once you get your financial aid award letters, you get your offers, you want to look and see, well, what did they offer us? And there's two different kinds of financial aid. Okay, as you can see hopefully you can see on the left side of your screen, grants and scholarships. That's what we call gift aid, because it's gifts of money. It's free money that doesn't have to be paid back, so it brings the cost of college down. That's the good kind. The other kind is called self-help aid, and that's work study and loans. So that helps you pay the bill, but it doesn't bring the cost of college down. In fact, with loans, it increases the cost of college. So the first thing you got to do is translate, decode what they have offered you in that financial aid offer. Okay, so grants are typically need-based, based on if you have any demonstrated financial aid, which they assess from your FAFSA and your CSS profile. And they can offer you, you might get a Pell Grant from the federal government or a state grant or institutional grants. That would come out of the schools themselves. They have pockets of money, buckets of money where they can help families who have demonstrated financial need. And there's where your student aid index matters enormously. Okay, so when you file the FAFSA, you file the CSS profile, they generate this number for your family called the student aid index. And if your student aid index is low enough, then you would qualify for need-based aid. And so that's why that number is so important, because the lower the SAI, the more aid you can get potentially. And scholarships, often also called merit aid, it's based on because it's based on your student's merit, right? It's based on grades and test scores and any kind of talent. Where I went to undergrad, they actually have a scholarship if you can play the bagpipes because we were the Fighting Scots. So they have if you're a talented bagpipe player, you can get a merit scholarship for that or whatever. This is independent of financial need. This is your kids, merit alone. And typically there's rules around it, like you got to have a certain GPA or test score. You got to keep that GPA for all 4 years or whatever. So you definitely want to look at the fine print if they're going to make you a scholarship offer. You want to make sure it's renewable for all 4 years and all that kind of stuff. And on the self-help aid side, if you qualify, your kid could get offered work study, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a job on campus. You work in the cafeteria or you work in the library or something like that, and you get a paycheck. Okay. But loans, there's different types of loans. We, keep an eye out for a future workshop, a webinar we're going to do on loans because that's a pretty complicated landscape, especially with big changes that just happened with the big beautiful bill. Lots of impact on loans there. But there are loans backed by the federal government that the student can get in their name only, so you don't have to be on that loan. But there's also parent loans you get from the federal government. We tend to help encourage families hopefully to avoid those because it's not a very good loan. But then when it comes to the federal direct student loan, that is the only loan a student can get in their name. Again, it's called the federal direct student loan. It's for us, the students. And then in the parent loan, it's called the plus loan. Okay. And two different kinds of loans, but those are backed by the US government. And there are also some private lenders and some state loans and even some nonprofit loans. But again, that's self-help aid. It's not going to bring the cost of college down. So if you get an award letter, look at this one here from USC, Southern Cal. You look at it and you go, oh my gosh, it's $97,000 to go here. Okay, let's say 98 for easy math. But then you realize, well, that 97 is not exactly what I'm going to have to pay. That's not the bill I'm going to get. They'll give you an itemized breakdown with the fixed costs like tuition and fees. And then there's a bunch of estimated other costs, like your meal plan, depending on the one you pick, it's going to have a different price point. They estimate, travel and those kinds of things. So you want to make sure you understand what the true costs are. Okay. And in this particular case, they have offered $53,000 in work and loans. Okay. In other words, they're offering the student 3250 in a work study job so they can make a little over 3 grand throughout the year by working in library, whatever. And then they're offering the student that direct loan, which is $5,500 in the first year. Every kid qualifies for it as long as you file the FAFSA. Goes up to $6,500 in year two and $7,500 in years three and four, but that's it. And then the other loan they're offering is a parent loan. Look at that, federal direct parent plus loan, $44,000. Now, this is going to change in the future. They have now decided in the future years they're going to cap the amount of parent loans that you can take, which is very important to know because if you're looking ahead, like how are we going to pay the next 4 years? Oh, we'll just take parent loans. Well, might not be enough, okay, because they're capping it at 65,000 total over 4 years. Okay, but just the point here is that this would be from Southern Cal an offer of financial aid. It's really not helping you at all, other than helping you pay the bill. It's loans. Okay, so there's the itemized breakdown of that. And you're still going to have $44,000 out of pocket. All right, so that is, the total financial aid, $53,000, but it's self-help aid. It's not gift aid. All right. So now, if you look at this is one from Drexel University. It looks very different. This one has lots of grants and scholarships, lots of gift aid, so it's a very different picture. So look here, Dean Scholarship of they do trimesters or quarters, $24,000, $8,000 per term, and then they get a grant of $15,900 per year, and an estimated Pell Grant of 7,395, and then an SEOG grant of 1,200. So the total for this particular family, and gift aid is 48,495. That's going to reduce the cost of Drexel down significantly. Okay. Then on the second page of this Drexel offers, where you're going to see the self-help aid offer here, right? You got the federal work study, and you got the federal direct student loans. And in this particular family's case, some of that direct student loan is actually subsidized, which means the government will pay the interest while the student's in college. When students take that direct loan, they don't have to start making payments until college is over, until they're out of college, but the interest can start accruing. But if you qualify for a subsidy, the government will pay the interest for it. It doesn't start accruing. Okay. And so there's a breakdown of, if you look at, you get a financial aid offer, you need to decipher and decode, is it gift aid or is it self-help aid? What's the true out-of-pocket cost? Are they offering us loans? Are they offering us Scott? What are they offering? So you have a true understanding of the cost. Okay, now let's talk about who should do appeals. Okay, so the first thing you want to look at is, what are they offering us? And then determine, are we a good candidate for appeal? If you're going to do an appeal, first question is, who's going to do it? Okay, now there's different types of appeals. If you're going to appeal the merit scholarship offer to try to get more scholarship money from them, you're going to appeal that to the Office of Admissions. If you're going to do a need-based appeal, you're going to do that to the financial aid office. Okay, because remember, merit is based on your students' talents. Grants are based on your family's financial need. Okay, so the admissions office is the office that offers scholarships, because they use scholarships as incentives to get kids to try to enroll. But the financial aid office is what administers grants and loans and work study for need-based aid. So depending on what type of appeal you're doing, it would go to different places. But can you do both? Yeah, you actually can. If a school offers merit scholarships and you get some of both, you can definitely appeal both depending on the school. But again, not all schools do merit scholarships. So in those cases, you wouldn't be able to do a merit appeal. Okay. All right. Now, the big question is, should you appeal? Should we always appeal? Well, um, yeah, except you're going to have a much better chance of success in certain circumstances than other. Okay. There's no downside to appealing per se other than time, but you're going to have much better luck in certain circumstances than others.
Can I add some before you go into the good and bad candidates? Can I add something real quick? Um, there are, and I know for clients we work with too, there are circumstances where you don't want to appeal, and you have to think through what that might be. For example, if you do an appeal, they want your future, usually like for example, the next year's income tax return, especially if you're doing special circumstances, change, so forth. Well, if your income went up, you don't want to volunteer that tax return, but you might have to as part of the appeal. And most appeals, like that's standard. They want your tax return even for the next year, especially when you're doing this in March and April. But in addition to that, maybe you accidentally or purposely omitted something on the forms. The second you appeal, it opens your file up for reevaluation, right? And they're going to look through your taxes, they're going to look through your FAFSA, maybe your CSS profile if the college uses it. And those are instances that you do want to think through. But that being said, we love appeals and it's part of the process. And we do think like 99% of circumstances you should appeal. But here, I'll kick it back over to you. I just wanted to add that.
No, it's an absolutely great point. This is why it's helpful to talk to us to get a sense of, should we or should we not appeal. I just had this conversation with the mom this morning. To your point, Kevin, she was like, "Well, what could happen?" We talked through it, and I think in the end, we're gonna help her with an appeal, but we had to talk through the potentialities there. So,
I
okay,
do want to one example, not to
go
cut you off. Sorry, I want to share one
very
example.
good.
Family came to us after they got help actually from somewhere else, and they did an appeal. Villanova took away, it was like 30 or $40,000 because Villanova originally didn't see a trust that was listed on the Schedule E of the tax return, but they didn't catch it the first go around. But on the appeal, they caught it. And when they caught the trust, they took away this huge grant, and it literally completely changed the cost of school and brought Villanova to basically full price. So, like, that's a great example of that backfired. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm not saying that's going to happen to you. But again, you want to think through this. You might want to talk to us. You might want our help with this before navigating it.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some good candidates for appeals? Well, these are the big ones. Okay, first of all, if it's private colleges, much better success probability than publics. Okay, private colleges for sure. If you've had some unique case things happen, like in the base income year, which is always the prior year, if you had a retirement distribution, that could drive up your income. You took some money out of an IRA or something like that. It was a one-time event. In other words, that it's not going to happen in future years, something like that. If your marital situation has changed, you've gotten divorced or separated since the base income year, that would be a good case for appeal. Now, here you got to pay attention to, is this a FAFSA only school, or is it a school that uses the CSS profile and therefore the IM, the institutional method, rather than the FM? So IM, in most cases, both parents are going to have to file anyway. So there, again, that's one of those, well, if it's an IM school, both parents are going to have to file, et cetera. So um, business owners often have good opportunities for appeal because there's complexity in your business finances in terms of revenue, expenses, and those kinds of things, debt, whatnot. And so a lot of times the financial aid offer doesn't reflect accurately your circumstances from perspective of being a business owner. So that's often a good one. And one of the best ones, if you have a better offer from competing schools, especially private colleges, they're all competing with each other often for similar types of students. And if one school makes you a better offer, you can often leverage that. Bad candidates for appeal. You're probably not surprised. The first one would be Publix. I've had a few heartbreaking conversations with parents this week who came to me and they're like, how do we get more financial aid from Auburn or Oregon or whatever? I'm like, that's super hard. Auburn potentially, Oregon potentially, but just a lower probability because publics have a different business model, different financial aid business model. So, if you cross the state line, you're probably going to pay double than if you go to a public in your own state. And oftentimes those publics across the state line, they don't care. It's like, hey, if you're going to come into our state and come here, you're going to pay full boat. So just be aware of that. We always pick on Penn State, but we could pick on, a number of different colleges. They're probably not going to give you any financial aid at all. And you could do an appeal, but they're going to say no. Probably, unless there's some really special circumstances. If you've had no changes in your financial situation, or like as Murph said, if you make more in 25 than in 24, then that's probably not going to weigh in your favor. You've had no one-time distributions or unusual kind of things like that. You're probably not a good candidate for appeal. And again, as I said earlier, if you're not sure, just talk to us and we'll give you honest feedback on whether you're a good candidate for a successful appeal or not. Okay, so go ahead, Murph.
Sorry, we just got a good question in the chat, and I've seen this too, but they said that they saw on certain colleges' websites that they don't entertain appeals. They don't have an option. They legally have to. It's something called professional judgment. So, especially if we're talking need-based appeal. Now, maybe the colleges don't entertain merit-based appeal, which I've seen plenty of public schools have that on their websites and even say that as like a generic response. But if it's a need-based appeal, a change in circumstances, they legally have to. So do not be discouraged based on what they say on their website.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good question. Okay, so when you're evaluating the financial aid award offer they gave you, one of the things is compared against a net cost projection. If you have done a net price calculation on their website or using MyCap, that'll give you a good sense of whether or not you got a good offer or a bad offer. Um, you got to understand that the offer you got is based on your student aid index, which is an estimate of how much you can pay annually. And the cost of attendance is really the sticker price, right? The difference between the cost of attendance and the student aid index is how much need you have, potentially how much to receive. And so we get this question a lot. We ran a net price calculator and blah, 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 blah. You probably shouldn't rely on the net price calculators on the school's websites. They're just not always some are pretty good, but a lot of them are really bad. They just don't keep them up to date, or they're super simplified and they don't capture nuances in your situation and so forth. MyCap is much more accurate than the net price calculators. But having said that, I'll go back to the slide. If you do run a net price calculation on a school, save it, screenshot it. And then if you get an offer that doesn't match that or is worse, you can always share that as part of your appeal. Okay, so the how. Okay, well, first you're going to look at, again, your student aid index is going to be the main driver of need-based aid, gift aid. And the way they generate the student aid index is they're going to look at what you put on the FAFSA and the CSS profile in terms of your income and your assets. And parent income and student income, parent assets, student assets assessed differently. That's why you both have to share your information, student information and parent contributor information. but they're going to pull your income from the prior year. So if your kid's going to college in 26, they pull your tax returns from 24, right? Again, but if you've had a major change since 24, potentially there's a opportunity for appeal there. But the income's the main driver. I have this conversation with a lot of parents. It's like, they will look at your assets, of course, about 5.64% roughly, but your excuse me, your just gross income, which is line 11 on the 1040, that's the main driver of the student aid index. So if there's been a big change there, that's something to keep an eye on. And, your student can work on the FAFSA, you get a student allowance for employment up to 11 grand, 11.7, something like that. Um, but on the CSS profile, they are supposed to report that. So anyway, but this is how they um, determine if you qualify for any need. All right. So you have to be aware of how the whole system works to craft a good story, to make a good case. So when you do appeal, here's generally how we encourage, it's how we approach it when we work with clients, when we work with families to help them, is first of all, bring color background to your story. Right. The FAFSA, the CSS profile, they're just application forms basically that asks for a bunch of numbers and they just do the math. Oh, you make this much money, you have this much in assets, okay, you qualify for X. But there's often special circumstances, that's why they're called special circumstances appeals, that are not captured in those forms. And here's your opportunity to tell that story. In some cases, you want to ask for a specific amount of aid. It might be that you can afford X per year because of your 529 savings or whatever, and if they can get to X, your kid will go there. Or it could be that, a competitor school offered a $30,000 scholarship and the school offered 20,000. Could you match the 30,000? It could be, we ask you to remove all of the home equity or something like that because we can't access it due to credit issues or something. So please take off 198,000 or whatever, those kinds of things. If you're going to tell them you got a better offer somewhere else, show them. Don't just tell them, show them. Say, look, here's the offer from your competitor, and that's way more powerful than just telling them. Sometimes they will add in, like if you're a business owner, business expenses that you can take off your taxes, they'll add them back in. Just working with an appeal for a family tonight, actually, and this was a case we did this for Northwestern. And so you can always challenge those if they factor. In other words, you had some business expenses, you deduct those, right? Well, if they add those back in, your student aid index goes up, and so you can appeal based on that. Um, Big question, probably the number one question I get from all parents I talk to about appeals is they say, is this going to hurt our kids' admissions chances? Are they going to pull the admissions offer? So they're scared, parents are scared of offending the school or something like that. And here's the thing, the answer is no. You want to do appeals and be persistent. You want to be polite, of course, and professional, but you want to be persistent. And you're going to take the approach of that you're demonstrating interest and really wanting to go there, right? You're not going to say we're here to negotiate, but you're going to say, my kid really wants to go here. It's his dream, her dream. We just can't afford it, and here's why. Can you help us? If you can help us, then we can make it happen, is the kind of general the approach. And it's a great idea if the student leads the charge. You remember, we use the word kids a lot, but they're going to be adults. They're going to be the ones that are going to school, and it's their school, their financial aid package. And so if they can lead the charge, that can be very impactful. It shows maturity and, it impresses the school. Like, oh, this is a very impressive kid. Well, not a kid, will be an adult when they go, but you get the idea. And then the last thing is the enrollment deposit. They're going to try to bully you into putting your enrollment deposit down. They're going to try to scare you. You have to put your enrollment deposit now to get the best chance at, dorms or to save your spot, those kinds of things. Um, we always say if you can stomach it, hold off. Don't commit. Don't put your enrollment deposit down. You put enrollment deposit down, you lose leverage. Okay. Now there might be some cases where you want to do that if your kid's dying to get into a certain dorm or something like that, but you lose a lot of leverage if you put enrollment deposit down. If you can hold off until the last minute, then that gives you more leverage potentially. Okay. And here's some valid need-based appeal items. The market value of your home. If you file a CSS profile, and you put down that, that your home, is worth $500,000 or something like that, and you've overinflated it, overestimated, inflated, excuse me, you might be able to appeal based on that. So it's really not worth that much. If you again have changes in financial circumstances, changes in your marital status, if you have medical issues and ongoing medical expenses, that's a really powerful one too. Generally, they say 10% of your income out of pocket expenses is a good threshold. But if you had a surgery or ongoing treatment, those kinds of things, you can definitely use those. Again, if you're a business owner, if you had these one-time financial events, basically any strain on your cash flow that's not reported on the financial aid forms, you can use that for appeal. Now, be prepared to show, don't just tell. They are going to want documentation. Go
Can I
ahead, Murph.
something real quick? Just with the previous slide, with everything we talked about so far, don't guess. Right. I was doing an appeal for a family today for Bates, and dad guessed that his income was 100 grand less than the prior year. I fought, took a little while, but I got a pay stub, looked at the pay stub, annualized the income, and it was $250,000 less, right? Based on the 1 quarter earnings. And I'm sharing this because you don't want to guess with the expenses that are listed here in terms of like the previous page, like medical expenses, things like that. But you also don't want to guess or use round numbers or anything like that. Just be really specific, but also be diligent, take your time, think through this. It's really important I'm not trying to say it's a one chance or one shot, but it's really important to get your appeal right because you can't kind of untell a college what you've told them. So, all right,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's good. That's super helpful. So you can get all kinds of supporting document requests. This is one appeal we've been working on. Look at this. At this time, the committee requests you provide the following documentation: a cash flow worksheet from 2 years, 24 and 25. Um, tax returns, W-2, school tuition payment documentation, recent mortgage statement, checking savings account statements, all these kinds of things. So you're going to have to be prepared to provide documentation that supports the claims you're making in the appeal. But it's really important that you do the appeals if you are in a good position to have a successful appeal. So just look at a couple of these cases of clients that we've helped. This is one for Occidental College. Murph, do you want to share this? Was this one of your cases, I think?
I didn't. I know all the details, but it wasn't me.
Oh, okay. I was thinking this was one of your cases.
No, I never take credit for an appeal I didn't do, but I know all the details. It was a situation with home equity. Occidental is a school that does evaluate and use home equity in their calculation. And this family had a lot of home equity. Oh, I didn't even see that before the appeal, significant home equity. And they got the package, the offer, the 45,000, a little bit misleading. If you'll notice, besides the first two line items, they're all loans or work study. So they got a decent offer, but they didn't get the grant, the free money that they needed. So the basis for the appeal was inability to access home equity, right? And way more than just putting in a sentence, we are not able to access our home equity, right? Way more complex than that. But the reason that we used worked, right? They were able to get home equity removed from the equation, and home equity counts at 5%. So it is a big impact at the schools that do use it. And you can see after the appeal, it was roughly 30 grand. I don't know if you want to click a few more times. I think it was, yeah, $34,000 in additional aid that this family got. And again, home equity, that was the primary reason used in this appeal. So um, definitely a good outcome there. This is one I did do. I will say that. This
Okay.
was an appeal, Boston University. Um, they didn't give them any money, right? Based on the information on the CS's profile, they got nothing. And fun fact, the offers from Boston University, they're good for 4 years. So that means that this family would have spent $400,000 on college. And that just wasn't manageable. And what happened with this appeal was pretty complex. It was one-time income, rental properties. The rental properties were a big driver, the equity in them. There was 5 or 7 rental properties. I can't remember exactly, but it was definitely one of the main reasons they got no money. And you can see here, really just loans. And then after the fact, right, they ended up getting almost $45,000 in free money. In total aid, it was almost $51,000. And I just want to point out too, that first 28,800, that was the first appeal. I knew based on what we said in the appeal, it wasn't what they should have gotten. And the student was an athlete being pressured to commit. I believe this was also early decision, and they were ready to commit. And I begged them not to. I said, "You need to get more. You deserve more based on the circumstances we outlined." So we went back again. We went back to someone else, and this time we got another $15,900, and a life-changing difference. I mean, this family literally saved $180,000 on college with our help. Um, and it's, again, it really does make a big difference for families. So I don't know if you want to add anything. You've done countless appeals to BU as well. But this was, oh, the next one was yours, but do you want to cover this one?
Go ahead.
Okay. So
I'm
this
in
was,
here answering questions. Like, oh, this is kind of fun.
yeah, the Q&A has been fun tonight. But the this circumstance, I'll be honest, this isn't a typical circumstance. Like this is definitely a special, unique circumstance, but income was around 90 grand in 2023. They had a lot in non-retirement assets. However, not only was there a huge drop in income, right? Literally income got cut in half, but it got cut in half because dad unfortunately became permanently disabled. Now that $1.5 million was every dollar he had, right? That was his retirement savings, that was his future, and his income will never get to a level that it was before, right? There's no potential for growth either. And that was the appeal, right? That was the appeal that was used and ended up getting an additional like 20, 22, $23,000 in additional aid. Sorry, I can't see the bottom of my screen, but so definitely a big outcome for this family. Did they remove the full $1.5 million? No, if they removed all of that, it would be a totally different picture. But they removed some of it, and they removed the income as well, which resulted in that aid.
I can do this one. This
Yeah, yeah, this one's you. Go for it.
Yeah, I had a student at Syracuse was top choice and it's 92 grand or whatever, and they got no merit offer. So we appealed, highlighting strong academics, leadership, all this kind of stuff, right? Some things that had happened, good things that happened since the kid applied, right? That's a good thing to point out. And leverage competing offers. And the listen to this. The first round, the Syracuse came back and offered the family $5,000 per year. I was like, oh, well, that's 20 grand in savings over 4 years. So the family's like, oh, yeah, it's better than nothing. I was like, no, no, let's go back. Appeal second time. They doubled it. They offered $10,000 per year. So that's like 40K a year. And, the parents were like, and I said, you know, this other school, in this case, it was JMU, James Madison, who did deserve to be in the college football playoff, by the way. That's an aside, but really important point. JMU offered a much better package. And so told Syracuse that. So sorry, JM, and didn't say it exactly like this, right? Said it professionally, but sorry, JMU is a better deal. And Syracuse came back and offered the family $60,000 in financial aid, in merit scholarship per year. So it ended up being $240,000 in savings over 4 years from Syracuse. So absolutely amazing. The kid's there now and loving it, thriving. Parents are happy because they got it down to, in-state, less than in-state public tuition. It was a super, super good win. So speaking of wins, uh, Murphy, you want to
I
share?
was just gonna say, I have a feeling from that article and from everything that happened with Syracuse last year, it's gonna be an interesting year, this one for appeals.
I
I'm
agree.
already at, I don't know, two, three appeals I've already written for Syracuse. And yeah, I've got a feeling that word spread a little too much. They definitely also changed how much merit aid they gave this year, but still not enough.
They
Anyways, so
they under award. They under award every year. So not to get on a rant, but they under award families. Drives me
they,
crazy.
they they think it's worth more than it's worth.
Yeah, yeah. It
But
drives me crazy.
yeah, me too. But so a lot of these were yours too. But I mean, what this chart says, aside from us humbly bragging, is that appeals are an important part of the process, but they literally could be a life-changing part of the process. Like you can see here, one of our appeals, it was Colby was 74,000, Emory was 64,000. Um, I just, if you think about that, even the BU appeal that we talked about earlier, some of these Boston College appeals that are here, tens and tens of thousands of dollars, that's out of pocket. That's after tax money. That's money that you've worked for. Imagine even having to borrow that, pay that back with interest on a student loan. Again, it really could change the difference between your student being able to go to school, but also like when you retire. So please do not skip appeals. You'll see there are some public universities on here. It's not impossible to appeal public universities, regardless of how we make it sound. It's just more challenging. And that's why a stronger appeal does matter. But
You want
yes,
to
yep,
scholarships?
yep. So when it comes to scholarships, one thing I want to emphasize is you need to be very targeted with your time. And your student really needs to be organized with this and try to, I'd say hone in on the scholarships that they're likely to get. Your student should be the one owning the applications, owning a large part of the process. All you should be involved with is if they ask like your student aid index or they ask for like financial information, that's the part you're involved with. But the rest of the part is completely on your student. And a lot of the deadlines, some were in December, but a lot of them are going to continue. I know it says until March, but sometimes even until June. Like the deadlines continue all the way through the end of senior year. You just want to be careful. You want to check the deadlines now and you want to set up a game plan. Um, and in terms of scholarships for students who are already in college, those do exist. There's way less of those than there are for first year students, kids who are applying to college. But that being said, there are scholarships for students in college. And realistically, you're talking at most a few $1,000s. And that's after doing 10 plus, maybe 20 hours of work. And private scholarships are usually just for the first year. There are some that are for all 4 years. Those are usually more competitive, harder to get. So maybe an employer has a private scholarship like that through them that, 3, 4, 5 grand a year. I've seen that from IBM, and a few other employers. But anyways, not a ton here for the amount of work involved, but it's still worth the time. And it's similar, right? Your students gonna have to write essays. They're gonna have to do an application. So it's similar to the process they just went through with applying to college. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but number one tip, shop local, right? So you really do want to focus on local, think local Rotary Club, think high school guidance office, ask them, high school counseling office, ask them if the they have a spreadsheet for scholarships. Um, just even credit unions, local banks, you name it, just in your community, local. And in our software, you do have to be a premium member, but in MyCap, we do have, I believe now it's like $10 billion in scholarships and over 10 billion in scholarships. And it's organized in a way so you can really kind of focus on your search, focus on maybe your state or maybe your religion or you name it. So it will help you. And it's just another reason to have a MyCap account.
Yeah, I think it's up to almost 7,000 scholarships, close to that, 6,850 or something like that.
Yeah. And one thing that we do suggest, you probably have already seen your students going to get a lot of emails throughout this process. Maybe create a new one for scholarships just to kind of filter out that spam. And in terms of deadlines, again, you want to make a spreadsheet, right? What are the January scholarships? What are the February scholarships? So a lot of the counseling offices at high schools have that already laid out and it's already organized where they would be able to, or excuse me, you would be able to see which ones have upcoming deadlines. Again, just organize this, prioritize this, don't miss deadlines. And your students should be committed to spending hours, several hours per week on this. Um, and just if your student's a sophomore or freshman, which I know very few people on today's call have sophomore or freshman, but there are still scholarships for underclassmen. And last one, still do the FAFSA. I actually just had to call Virginia Tech for an international family before, but a lot of Virginia Tech scholarships require the FAFSA, right? So not just private scholarships, but actual merit scholarships from the colleges. Sometimes they require the FAFSA. So no matter what, do the FAFSA. Do not avoid it. Don't skip it. If you have a senior and you haven't done it, it's not too late. You still have time. You are getting close though to deadlines. But just again, make sure you file that. Now also file the CSS profile if it's required. And just be aware for the FAFSA of any state specific deadlines. Right. Some states, I believe Texas has one in January. So some states actually have pretty early deadlines. So you do want to be mindful of that. Check the higher education authority for the state that you live in. And this is a question we get all the time, right? If my student goes, they work hard, they spend tons of time to win these private scholarships, will they get less money from the college? The honest answer to that is it depends, right? It depends on the college and the type of money they already got, but there's a chance that they will get less money. It's called scholarship displacement. And if a college awarded $20,000 in a need-based grant and your student got $5,000 in private scholarships, you don't have $20,000 of need anymore, right? You technically only have $15,000 of need. So nothing stops the college if you report those scholarships to them from reducing that grant from 20,000 down to 15,000. See it happen all the time. And it's good to know where this is going to happen. If your student applied to like all Ivy League schools, or I've seen it happen with Vanderbilt even, they're gonna reduce their offer by that private scholarship amount. But if your student applied to University of South Carolina and got one of their tuition discounts, one of their scholarships, no, it's not going to change what you're getting from a merit perspective. And that's the next bullet. And every college does handle it differently. Every college might have their own private scholarship form, might want you to submit the private scholarship information to them differently. Scholarships are also paid out differently. Some are paid out directly to students and some are paid out to colleges directly. So again, it could really vary depending on the scholarship. But if they do happen to lower the award, lower the offer, appeal, right? If you even think too, a lot of offers include work study and loans. Maybe you want less self-help, and that's what the private scholarships can help with. But you definitely want to appeal if the college lowers your offer because of a reported private scholarship. And high level, appealing will not hurt. We get this question all the time. I actually saw it, I think, 2 or 3 times in the Q&A tonight, but no, it won't look negatively. It won't hurt. It won't impact anything. Now, we already just said private scholarships, it really depends. There could be scholarship displacement, but no matter what, appealing to get that adjusted so that they don't reduce your award based on the scholarship also will not hurt. So again, just it's another step in the process. Do you want to end the show and we can share the do you want
Yeah.
and I'll share the landing page so we can talk through things with everyone?
Yeah. Is that QR code for the landing page? Oh, wait, I never remember.
No, that one's not.
Okay. All right. So yeah, 748. That's pretty good. We got through so far 78 questions in 48 minutes. That's pretty good. So hopefully this was helpful.
Yep.
Again, high level view of appeals and private scholarships. We're answering a lot of questions here, a lot of really good questions. We've got a few minutes left. Maybe we can take some live. But before we do that, as I said at the very beginning of the webinar, we're happy to meet with you if you want to talk to us about, possibly our services, which, we have a service where we do the appeals for you. Um, and so if you want to talk to us about that to see if you're a good candidate for appeal and talk to us about getting, maybe if you want our help with this, we're offering a free 15-minute consultation. If you book tonight by midnight, get on our calendar. The link is in the chat, I believe. You put it in there, Murph, right?
Yeah, I'll drop it in again. I put it in earlier, but I'll drop
Okay,
it in.
so that's the landing page to get the information, information about how to book time with us, and discuss your situation. Like I said, review the offers, all those kind of stuff. And we also have maybe you haven't filed the FAFSA and CSS profile yet. I actually got a question in here about, well, I haven't done this stuff yet.
Yeah.
Or things are just due now or whatever. We do have a full soup to nuts package, which we call Wake Me Up When It's Over, which I think is funny. I laugh every time I say it. Wake me up when it's over. As a parent, I get that deeply. We're so busy, it's like just take it off my plate. Oh my gosh. But so if you haven't filed your FAFSA and you need to do everything this year, we do have a package for that where we'll file the FAFSA. We'll help you figure out a budget. We'll help you project out net costs of all the schools you're looking at. We'll help you with appeals. We'll help you with paying the bill. We'll help you with the loans. We'll help you with everything. So you can book a consultation to talk to us if you're in that situation. But if you're in a situation where you've already filed the forms, you've already applied, and now you're in the back half, which is the appeals paying the bill part, we have a package for that as well. It's called appeals and paying the bill package. And And if you're thinking you might want expert help on, you want us to do the appeals for you, we will. That package also includes help with paying the bill and loans. So if you're looking at, I don't know how we're going to do this, we don't have enough saved. That's a really helpful package because the appeals part gets the cost down on the front end, and it gives you clarity and efficiency on the back end with paying the bill in the smartest way so you don't take out bad loans or overpay or anything like that. If you're a DIYer, we have support for you there as well. You can get a free MyCap membership. Again, it's free, it doesn't cost anything, but you can upgrade to a premium membership for $5 a month. Like it's for $4.99 a month, no contracts, just month by month. You can get a premium membership, and that's for the DIYer parents out there. If you're like, you know what you're doing, it's like TurboTax. If you know how to do taxes, you just need TurboTax, right? To make it simpler and more efficient and faster and convenient and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like what a premium MyCap membership is. If you know how to do all this stuff, and you know how to navigate the financial aid system, you just need the planning software. $5 a month, get a premium MyCap membership as well. So
I do want to add one thing for the free consults. It's not just for us to see like where you're at, and we want to figure out, do you even have a case to appeal? Right? That's we're just trying to see like, did you get good offers? What else do you need to do? And do you even have a chance at appealing? We'll be very blunt, so please forgive us. But if you don't have a case for an appeal, we will tell you. If you do have a case for an appeal, we will tell you. And if we think we can make a big difference, that's when we're going to start talking about things like this. But we really just want to figure out, like, do you have a good chance at appealing or do you not? Um,
that's sorry to cut. I'm
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but that's really important. I met with I think 6 families today who were interested, and I had to tell two of them, "I'm sorry, we can't help you. We just are not going to be able to get you any money." And the other four, it's like, "Yeah, we definitely can help you," and they were pretty excited about that. But truly, if there's nothing we can do, and we'll be honest with you, but that's step one is like figuring out, do we have a good case for appeal? And then step two would be, how do we do this? Can you guys help us or whatever?
And someone wrote in the Q&A earlier that like, should they just wait, right? Maybe wait to talk to us until March or April. You can imagine everyone right at that point in the process is scrambling to get appeals done. You do not want to be one of the families who are in crisis mode to get an appeal into the college where you're running up against the May 1st deadline. The reason we meet with families tonight, the reason we ask for families to meet with us by the 17th is because we want to put you ahead of the game, right? If you have to correct your FAFSA, if you have to correct your CS profile, get the correction done. There's nothing that stops you. Plenty of families I'm working with this year. We're not going to, send the appeal until maybe March, but we already figured out the strategy, the reasons, everything's ready to go. There's not going to be weeks of preparing the appeal at that point. So even if you're doing this on their own, same point is don't wait, right? Don't wait to start thinking, how am I going to appeal? Am I going to appeal? Did I make a mistake on the FAFSA or CSS profile? Figure all that stuff out now so you're not scrambling leading up to the May 1st deadline.
Okay, so hopefully that was helpful for everybody. We got maybe a couple minutes left. You want to try to answer some live questions here? Try to do that.
I I will let you. I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing. There it is. Sorry. My screen share button went away. But all right, I'll take some. All right. Do If we don't have an offer yet, should we still meet to see if we have yes, right? Even if you don't have offers in hand, you can tell us your circumstances, you can tell us the schools. We should be able to tell. Now, is there a chance you have to wait for more offers or yeah, but we still will have a good sense. Um, do you have consultation on appeal? Yeah, we have our appeals package. I think that's what the question is saying. What is the cost of your help for appeal? You'll be able to see, I'll put the link in the chat here. Our appeals package is the pricing, all the details, including what's part of it, right? It's not just appeals. We do help go over the final bill. We do help go over and provide resources for private scholarships. We've got a step-by-step scholarship search guide. So all of that's part of it. Let me put that back in the chat. Bear with me.
I'll take one while you're doing that.
Okay.
I'd like to book an appointment before midnight, but don't have the information back yet from school. Can we be flexible? Yeah, we can be flexible in the consultation. I would say, go out as far as the calendar will let you, and hopefully that'll be enough time for you to get all the information from the school. But you can always, then reschedule with whoever you're meeting with. You can just reach out via email and say, "Hey, I still don't have anything. Can we push it back a week or two?" So we can be flexible with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think though, for the most part, right, even if you don't have an offer, still just meet now, right? You might not get offers
Yeah.
until March, but like you might be able to very quickly say you've got a good appeal. Um, maybe it's not, or maybe we tell you on the con you have to wait. We can't give you a firm answer yet. Let's wait to see what the offers look like. We'll have to meet again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no harm in meeting with us now.
Yeah. Good call. If a college uses the CSS but not iDoc platform, when do we upload our tax forms? If and when the student is accepted? So typically, if a CSS profile school doesn't use the iDoc, they will email your student and ask for you to upload forms then. So they typically, there's just a link in the email saying, please upload here, something like that. So that's when you do it. They'll notify the student, not you. Remember, the student's applying, not you. So that student needs to pay attention to their email and the student portal at the college. Okay, my cap count shows me an indicator on the appeals. Can I use that to determine which college to appeal at? I'm still waiting to make college decision, regular decision. Yeah, if you're a DIYer, one of the things that my cap does is give you just kind of a general sense of if you have a good chance of appeal. If you upload your financial aid award letters to MyCap, it'll read it and then compare with what we think you should have gotten, and it'll give you a good sense. Potentially, if it's a good offer or a bad offer. But again, that's our platform is amazing. Our platform is amazing, but it is a technology software system, right? So it's what you put in and what you put out. So I would highly recommend talking to us just to make sure that you get the most accurate information.
I just started screen sharing. This is what
Good.
obviously if you upload an award, right, you'll be able to see the our projection, you'll be able to see the actual award level, you'll be able to see the differences, but based on the offer versus our projection, you'll be able to tell, right, if you do have the ability to appeal or not, right? The appeal likelihood, you can see here. This does not account for special circumstances. It doesn't account for competing offers. It doesn't account for some things that might require more in-depth help, which is why, again, we offer the chance to talk to us. Yeah, you can absolutely put, and you should please go into MyCap, upload all of your offers. You should be doing that now if you haven't already done it, and create your account if you haven't already done it. Make sure that the information in your account lines up directly with your FAFSA and your CSS profile, so that this likelihood is accurate. But please, yeah, make sure you go and do that now.
I'm going to answer two questions at once. They're both about making mistakes on the FAFSA or CSS profile. So if you've made mistakes or you're not sure if you've made mistakes, we can look at it and see if you did and make corrections. It's really, really important. But you're going to do that as quickly as possible because that could delay awards or it might not get processed or whatever in time before you get your appeals. But that is definitely something we do for clients. If you want some help with that, so we'll go in. It's one of the first things we do when we work on appeals for families is, hey, let's look at your FAFSA CSS profile and see if you made any mistakes and see if there's any corrections that we can make there to help our case. So yeah, absolutely, you can make changes. And there are a lot of common mistakes we see on the FAFSA, on the CSS profile, so we kind of know what to look for. But yeah, we can help you with that if you feel like you've made some mistakes or aren't sure.
I just there's another question here. I just want to share one more time my cap, and then I know we do have
Yeah.
to go. But you upload the awards here, right, under compare awards, add award, and that's where you would actually upload it. And you can see I already have an award uploaded here, but that's where you put it in and it'll translate it. And if there's any issues with the translation, our support team always adjusts it. But yeah, this is where you upload the awards. Any
Oh,
other?
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, any others? Someone just asked cost for services. That is on the landing page that I shared earlier. Um, yes, they would consider that as an appeal gen. And yes, Claudia, if it's a non-custodial parent, it's totally different appeals, right? So if one parent has the job loss and they're the custodial parent, you're only doing an appeal for that parent. If the other parent, the non-custodial, has a job loss, you do the appeal for them. But lastly, financial aid awards, they can come in all different ways. They might come in the mail, they might come in the portal, they might come via email.
Yeah. They just won't come in the snail mail. Uh,
But
well, thank you, everyone. It's 8 o'clock. Hopefully, this was helpful. There will be a recording available you can watch later. And again, two things I would say in closing tonight. Take advantage of the free consultation if you're thinking about doing appeals, you're not sure, if you should or not, and if you want some help. And the second is, please tell friends and family about us. If you know people who are in the same boat and looking for some help with this crazy financial aid system we have, we love working with families and helping families. It's why we get out of bed every day. So please help us, help them, pay it forward, spread the word.
yes, please, and best of luck, everyone. And also, Happy New Year. I don't think we've said that yet. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. We wish everyone an amazing 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. Good night.
Bye.